Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. A saleswoman was helping a poor beggar, until one day he told her, "I'm a billionaire." Lena was 26 years old. For the past 2 years, she had been working as a saleswoman in a modest but elegant clothing store, nestled in the heart of a working-class neighborhood of a large city. Every morning, she left her small shared student apartment, wrapped in a light jacket, her bag slung over her shoulder, and took the familiar route to her workplace. The journey, on foot, offered her a daily immersion in a vibrant, noisy, and often chaotic city. The streets she crossed were a contrasting mix of worlds that intersected without ever truly meeting. On one side, old buildings with tired facades, dusty shop windows, street vendors shouting their prices in low voices, passers-by in a hurry, sometimes tired, often indifferent. On the other, at the bend of an avenue, gleaming facades, luxury cars honking their horns, chic cafes where conversations in foreign languages created a hushed atmosphere. This mix was the scene of a fragile coexistence between wealth and poverty, between hope and disillusionment. Just outside the shop where Lena worked, on the street corner, there was an old man. Every day, without fail, he sat down in the same spot, on the sidewalk half covered with dead leaves and cigarette butts. His clothes, worn by time and weather, were stained with dust, wrinkled, and often ill-fitting. An old gray cap covered his matted white hair. His face, marked by the years, bore the traces of a hard life. Deep wrinkles, parched skin, knobby hands with trembling fingers. Yet he begged for nothing. Not a pleading look, not an aggressive or desperate gesture. He remained there, motionless, silent, as if waiting. Lena had noticed him from the first day. Not because he was visible. On the contrary, he went almost unnoticed amidst the urban tumult. What had struck her was his gaze. That calm, gentle, almost luminous gaze, which seemed to defy time. A gaze that told a story, a memory, a depth. As if, despite everything, this man kept his humanity intact, refused to be broken by life. In a world saturated with noise, mechanical gestures, and fleeting glances, this old man was an enigma, a silent presence that seemed to say, "I am still here, despite everything." Lena herself wasn't rich. Her salary as a saleswoman barely allowed her to make ends meet. Her modest rent swallowed up a large portion of her income, and she pursued distance learning, hoping one day to change her life, to find a career that would give her more meaning. Despite her fatigue, despite the small frustrations of everyday life, she tried to keep a light within her. Every day, she arranged to offer the old man a hot coffee, discreetly slipped into a paper cup, or a sandwich carefully prepared from the shop's stockroom. It was nothing, but it was a breath of warmth, a burst of sweetness in a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. Sometimes, she left him a blanket or a scarf when winter bit the city. Over the weeks, this small ritual forged a fragile bond between them. The old man, silent at first, began to offer her a smile, shy at first, then more confident. Sometimes he would wave at her, an almost imperceptible gesture, but filled with deep gratitude. Lena, for her part, had ended up calling him sir, a sign of respect for this man she didn't know, but who had earned a place in her heart. She had never known his name, nor where he came from, nor what had led him there. It didn't matter. That moment, just before opening the shop, had become a refuge for her. She always searched for his face in the crowd, waiting for that silent exchange. In that simple relationship, almost invisible to others, Lena found a sense of meaning, a reminder that humanity, even in its humblest forms, could still exist. Proof that behind every seemingly forgotten life, there was a story worthy of attention. One late autumn afternoon, as the wind played its familiar game with the dead leaves, swirling them in a silent and fragile ballet, Lena took out of the shop a still warm thermos she had filled earlier. The sky was covered in a soft gray, laden with a subdued light that enveloped the city in an almost melancholic atmosphere. The hurried passers-by had wrapped up their scarves, and the first chills of winter were creeping into the air. Lena approached the old man, her footsteps cushioned by the carpet of yellowed and brown leaves. She knelt slightly to hand him the steaming cup of coffee. The liquid gave off a comforting aroma, both bitter and sweet, that contrasted with the cold afternoon. The old man looked up at her, and Lena felt as if his gaze, usually so gentle, had suddenly become more intense, as if it were probing not only her face but her soul as well. He took the cup slowly, with almost ritual caution, as if he were holding a fragile treasure. Then he looked at her for a long time, his piercing blue eyes seeming to weigh each word he was about to say. Finally, in a calm, measured voice that contrasted with the image of poverty he projected, he said, "I'm a billionaire." Lena blinked in astonishment. Her brain was spinning, vacillating between incredulous laughter, suspicion, and sudden concern. Was this a joke? A whim of a forgotten man, perhaps alone and weary with age? Or a truth completely beyond her grasp? But the man showed no sign of amusement or confusion. His face remained impassive, serene, as if he were pronouncing a simple, self-evident truth. He continued, with that same calm and measured serenity, "I'm not here to beg. I came to observe, to listen, to see who, in this busy city, still has a heart." The silence that fell between them seemed laden with an invisible weight, as if the words spoken had opened a door to a secret world, long closed. Lena felt this silence vibrate around them, resonating in the rustling of the wind and the whispering of the leaves. "My name is Alexander Vidal," he said finally, breaking the magic of silence. He let out a deep breath, as if to lay down an invisible burden. His voice, always calm, contained a subtle melancholy, a hint of pain hidden behind the restraint. "I was once a powerful businessman, at the head of a global financial empire. But life has its own plans." He paused, his eyes lost in space, in a memory that Lena could only grasp in fragments. "The loss of my wife, the betrayal of those I trusted. It all broke me. I left everything behind." He gestured vaguely, taking in the street, the city, the world bustling around them. "I chose to disappear into anonymity, to abandon the tumult and the pretenses. I wanted to see another side of the world, Lena, the one not found in financial statements or boardrooms, the one of precariousness, solitude, abandonment." He set the cup down, his trembling fingers brushing the rim as if to anchor himself to reality. "I wanted to understand, not with numbers, but with my heart, to find what I had lost, to know if there was any humanity left in this city." Lena looked at him, overwhelmed. This old man, whom she had seen every day as a simple passerby, a forgotten pauper, was in reality a world unto himself, an ocean of experience and silent pain. She felt a new emotion awaken within her, a mixture of admiration, compassion, and astonishment at this improbable encounter. And in this late afternoon when time seemed suspended, two solitudes brushed past, ready to intertwine. As the weeks passed, their bond deepened, slowly taking root like a fragile but tenacious plant amidst the urban concrete. Every day, Lena and Alexander shared a little more than gestures or smiles. They exchanged simple words, precious confidences about life, about broken hopes, about dreams that had faded over the years. Their relationship, both discreet and intense, became a kind of refuge from the loneliness weighing on their shoulders. Lena gradually opened up. She told him about her childhood marked by her parents' separation, about a home that had become fractured, where she had had to learn to fend for herself very early on. She confided in him her thwarted ambitions, the study plans she had had to put on hold to earn a living, the nagging feeling of missing out on something essential. She told him about her doubts, her fears, her small daily victories that sometimes seemed so fragile. For his part, Alexander let slip a few choice fragments of his past. He spoke of his travels, the hushed salons where he had walked the red carpets, the weighty decisions he had made at the height of his empire. But he jealously guarded his most intimate secrets, the wounds he was not ready to reveal. This mystery reinforced his aura, fascinated Lena, who sensed beneath this rugged facade a man in search of redemption. They became two souls bound by a rare empathy, each offering the other a light in the darkness. This bond eluded convention and judgment. It transcended social barriers and age differences. In this relationship, Lena found a mirror to her own struggles, and Alexander an echo of his regrets. One winter evening, as the snow began to cover the city in a silent, soothing blanket, Alexander gently called her to his side. He slipped a small, thin, and carefully sealed envelope into Lena's hand. "Only open it at home, alone," he murmured with almost paternal tenderness. Heart pounding, Lena walked home under the flickering streetlight, wrapped in her coat, the biting cold pricking her cheeks. She locked the door behind her, sat down by the window, and finally opened the envelope with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Inside lay a check for €1 million, accompanied by a handwritten letter written with simple elegance. "For your generous heart, Lena. Because you saw the man, not the beggar. May this gesture be the beginning of a new chapter. True wealth is that which is shared." The words danced before her eyes, vibrating with an emotion she couldn't describe. This unexpected, immense gesture turned her world upside down. But this gift, far from being a simple check, was a promise, an invitation to dream again. Yet the path wasn't easy. Soon, whispers began to circulate. Some whispered that she had stolen the money, that the whole story was a lie. Others, overcome with jealousy, eyed her with suspicion, as if this sudden fortune were a mistake, a scandal. Lena felt the weight of others' stares, that slow poison that erodes trust. In those moments of uncertainty, she remembered Alexander's words, that lesson life had taught her. Dignity is not given, it is won. These words became her mantra, her armor against the storm. With courage and determination, she decided to invest this sum in a small local association she knew well, dedicated to helping those who, like Alexander in the past, had been left behind. A place where second chances became possible, where solidarity was woven into concrete actions. Alexander came to see her sometimes, ever more fragile with the passing years, his body marked by time, but his mind still rich in wisdom. He hadn't come back for money, nor for recognition. He had come back for the rediscovered humanity, for the authentic connection that transcends appearances. Through their story, Lena understood a profound truth. True wealth lies not in the numbers on a bank account, but in the ability to love, to give, to transform a life. What she had gained was not just money, but a renewed sense of purpose, a light that shone brighter than all material riches.